This video covers cheap chateaux in France that are actually livable in 2026, no abandoned ruins, no fantasy listings, real properties starting around $80,000 that you could move into right now, 7 chateaux spread across the country, from quiet countryside estates to historic manor homes with towers, courtyards, guest houses, and pools, all at prices that would be impossible to find almost anywhere else on Earth. The further we go, the more impressive things get. Some of these feel closer to boutique hotels than private homes, and the last few are on a different level entirely, so stay until the end. Today's route takes us across France, the Loire Valley, Normandy, the Pyrenees, the Auvergne, to see exactly what chateau living costs in 2026. Let's get into it. The first stop is the one that makes people stop and reread the price. 87,000 euros, or roughly $101,000, gets you a duplex apartment inside a genuine historic chateau in Leforge, in the Deux-Sèvres department of West Central France. Deux-Sèvres sits tucked inside the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, a quietly beautiful stretch of rolling farmland, sunflower fields, and medieval villages that most tourists blow straight past on their way to the Atlantic coast, which is precisely why the prices here still make sense. Poitiers, the nearest city of real size, brings a university, an international airport, a TGV rail connection, and everything needed for daily life, positioned roughly midway between the Loire Valley and the sea, with 4 proper seasons, mild winters, and warm summers that carry none of the southern France price premium. The property itself lives inside the east tower of the chateau, and the views from the windows stretch uninterrupted across 84,000 square meters of landscaped grounds, just over 20 acres, holding a lake, an orchard, and mature gardens wrapping around the building. Inside, the layout runs across 2 levels, a lounge with dining area and corner kitchen on the main floor, a master bedroom, a mezzanine-style second bedroom overhead, and a bathroom, all contained within 54 square meters, or about 581 square feet. Compact, yes, and the listing doesn't pretend otherwise, describing it as a lock-up and go home, and that framing actually changes the math when you consider what the quarterly service charge of around 1,500 euros covers. Heating, water, electricity, estate maintenance, and satellite TV all bundled together. What nobody expects at this price point is the access that comes with it. A full-sized swimming pool, tennis courts, a communal laundry, and a conservatory terrace overlooking the water with a 27-hole golf course nearby. Under $100,000 for all of that. Always verify the documents and service charge structure before committing, and listings at this level move quickly. But as a genuine entry point into chateau life, this one sets the standard. The next property takes things in a direction that genuinely caught me off guard. Charente arrives next, and the mood shifts the moment you picture it. One of the most sought-after departments in France, the region carries a long Atlantic coastline, with island escapes like Ile de Ré sitting just offshore, and an interior of vineyards, marshlands, and historic towns that moves at its own unhurried pace. Cognac originates here. Romanesque churches appear around every village bend, and the pale limestone facades and terracotta rooftops tend to glow amber in the afternoon light in a way that photographs never quite capture. Winters stay mild, summers run long and warm, and the sunshine hours rank among the highest in western France, which means outdoor living stops feeling like a special occasion and starts feeling like the obvious default. Over the last 2 decades, a well-established international community has settled here, drawn by strong transport links and a quality of life that genuinely earns what people say about it. That soft gray-gold haze that hangs over the coast on a still morning, the kind that makes the day feel like it has more hours in it than it does. That's Charente. Here's the next property. 139,000 euros, or about $161,000, and this time the address is the Château du Douai, sitting in the heart of Charente-Maritime. Listed as a historical monument since 1969, the building traces its origins back to the 14th century, and a conversion into condominiums in 2011 means the bones are ancient while the living spaces function like a modern home. This particular apartment sits on the first floor, accessed through the main courtyard entrance, and the listing describes a bright dual-aspect living room with a kitchen included, large windows pulling natural light across the space, and opening onto views of the surrounding park. 1 large bedroom, a shower room, and a separate toilet round out the interior, with 2 secure parking spaces, and a storage room included in the sale. What sets this one apart, though, is what lies outside the front door. Running beneath the historic park is the remains of a Gallo-Roman aqueduct, an underground network that still feeds the garden's reflecting pools today. Buying here means buying access to one of the more unusual private green spaces anywhere in France. And that detail alone puts this property in a category of its own. For 139,000 euros, that's a genuinely hard combination to argue against. Property 3 is next, and the price barely moves while everything else steps up considerably. 140,000 euros, roughly $162,000, and notice how little the number changed for what comes with it. Property 3 is a ground floor chateau apartment described as fully furnished, carrying 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and 104 square meters of living space, which works out to around 1,119 square feet, all set within an 8.4 hectare estate. Entry comes through the Chateau's grand hall, where the original stone staircase still anchors the space. And from there, the apartment opens into rooms lined with parquet flooring, wood paneling, marble fireplaces, decorative moldings, and ceilings tall enough to feel genuinely grand rather than merely old. The living room keeps its original glass-fronted built-in wardrobes and opens through multiple windows to the grounds, while the kitchen pairs granite countertops and premium integrated appliances with yet another marble fireplace, which is the kind of detail that stops feeling surprising and starts feeling expected at this address. A dining room that doubles as a second bedroom connects through French doors to its own ensuite shower room, and the main bedroom carries the same parquet and panel finish throughout. Fully furnished from day one means no gap between purchase and moving in. Shared amenities run to a large swimming pool, 2 tennis courts, landscaped gardens, a veranda, and a 27-hole golf course sitting 1 minute's walk from the estate boundary, with annual charges of around 15,000 euros, covering energy bills and communal maintenance according to the listing. Poitiers sits 30 minutes away by road, bringing an international airport and TGV rail service that puts Paris at 90 minutes. That's a hard combination to beat. The next property takes us south into the Aude, and the whole character of this list changes from here. The Aude department occupies a broad, sun-drenched corridor running between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean. And once you spend time there, the question stops being why you'd move to the south of France and starts being why anyone would choose anywhere else in it. Carcassonne anchors the region, one of the most visited medieval cities on the continent, but step past the tourist trail and the Aude opens into quiet wine country, sunflower fields, and hillside villages, where daily life runs on its own schedule. Over 250 days of sunshine arrive each year here, summers run long and dry, and winters stay mild enough that northern Europeans tend to find them startling in the best possible way. The Canal du Midi, a UNESCO World Heritage waterway lined with plane trees, cuts directly through this terrain and draws cyclists and boaters from spring through autumn, giving the region a particular kind of unhurried energy that feels distinct from the rest of the south. Architecturally, the chateaux here skew more fortified and more rooted than their counterparts further north, built from pale stone with thick walls designed to handle real heat, and they carry a sense of history that feels embedded in the ground rather than simply displayed. Here's the property. 159,000 euros, or around $184,000, lands you a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment on the first floor of a chateau near Carcassonne in the Aude, a building that once housed knights and now holds around 35 holiday homes set within parkland of centuries-old trees with panoramic views reaching toward the Pyrenees. Inside, tiled flooring runs beneath authentic high ceilings. Original stone walls frame tall windows built to catch the southern French light, and the living room and kitchen flow together on the main level in a way that makes the space feel larger than the floor plan suggests. Each bedroom carries fitted wardrobes and a private bathroom, one with a shower and one with a bathtub, and the modern layer underneath all of that period detail tells you a lot about how this property has been managed. Reversible air conditioning, fiber internet, double glazing, renovated shutters, and mosquito screens all feature in the listing. The septic tank received a full replacement in 2021. Those are the kinds of details that separate a property someone has genuinely maintained from one that is simply sat on the market. French doors from the main living area open onto a southeast-facing terrace of roughly 20 square meters, about 215 square feet, with unobstructed views across the wooded park and the mountains beyond. What makes the communal pool stand out is the scale of it. Completed in 2021 and shared between around 10 owners. Not a large anonymous facility, but something closer to a private arrangement. Carcassonne sits 15 minutes away and brings an international airport, while the Mediterranean coast, ski resorts, Toulouse, and the Spanish border all fall within comfortable reach. This is the chateau lifestyle, specifically the version that exists in the south of France. New leader. The next stop shifts the whole register of this list, and Normandy tends to catch people off guard every time. Auvergne comes next, specifically the Puy-de-Dôme department, and this is where France tends to surprise people who thought they already understood it. Sitting in the dead center of the country, the Auvergne occupies a volcanic highland of extinct craters, cratered lakes, mountain meadows, and medieval market towns that have barely shifted in centuries. Running along the western edge of the department, the Chaîne de Puy, a chain of dormant volcanoes, frames countryside made up of forests, rivers, and high pasture that looks engineered for silence. Winters here arrive properly, cold and sometimes snowy, which also puts ski slopes at Mont d'Or within 45 minutes. Summers, by contrast, run cool and green in a way that draws people back year after year. Clermont-Ferrand anchors the region as its capital, carrying an international airport, a university, and a cultural scene that surprises most first-time visitors, all within an hour of most of the department. Property prices across the Puy-de-Dôme reflect how little attention the region gets outside France. And for a buyer, that obscurity is exactly the opportunity. 229,000 euros, around $265,000. And here's the honest version of what that buys. Property, 5 breaks the move-in ready pattern this list has held. Intentionally, because the price per square meter demands attention. 8 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, spread across 335 square meters, roughly 3,606 square feet across 3 levels, sitting on a 3,500 square meter walled plot in the market town of Giat with a courtyard, garden, garage, and a traditional outbuilding included. The listing describes it as immediately habitable and full of character, and also notes it would benefit from renovation work with a swimming pool on the grounds that currently needs attention before use. 8 bedrooms in a real chateau for under 230,000 euros. For anyone weighing a family home, a bed and breakfast, or a holiday rental with genuine scale, the structure and location give you the foundation and the renovation gives you the upside. 60 kilometers from Clermont-Ferrand's international airport, 45 from the ski slopes at Mont d'Or. Go in clear-eyed on what the work involves, and the case for it gets strong quickly. From here, we snap back to move-in ready, and we head to Normandy, which tends to reorder people's thinking about where the value actually lives in this country. Most people arrive in Normandy thinking about history and holidays, which is precisely why the property value here keeps getting overlooked. Stretching along the northwestern coast of France, the region carries dramatic cliffs, rolling bocage farmland, half-timbered architecture, and a food culture built around butter, cream, cider, and produce that the rest of Europe quietly envies. More rain than the south arrives here, but with it comes softer light. Sitting at the heart of Normandy, the Calvados department places you an hour from the ferry ports at Cherbourg and Caen. With direct rail access to Paris and an agricultural economy strong enough to keep the towns functioning year-round rather than closing up in winter, Maison de Maitre are the local answer to the Loire's Chateau. Solid stone, slate roofs, symmetrical facades, generous grounds, built to last and built to impress. And right now, very quietly underpriced. 295,000 euros, around $342,000, buys a standalone Maison de Maitre in the village of Roulour, carrying 210 square meters of habitable space, which works out to about 2,260 square feet, set on a landscaped plot of 1,775 square meters. 6 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, spread across 3 floors, accessed through wrought iron gates onto a gravel driveway with parking for 4 or 5 cars. And the ground floor opens through an entrance hall into an L-shaped dining area, a fully equipped kitchen, and a 20 square meter balcony terrace overlooking the gardens and pool. 3 bedrooms sit on the first floor, 1 ensuite, with 3 more on the second floor alongside another ensuite and a further bathroom, double glazing fitted throughout the upper levels, and a large cellar spanning the full footprint of the house underneath it all. What tips this into a different category entirely is the coach house. 150 square meters, around 1,615 square feet, with a games room on the ground floor and a self-contained 2-bedroom apartment above it, carrying a kitchenette and shower room. That apartment functions as rental income the moment you move in, which changes the financial picture considerably. The listing describes the property as being in very good condition, long used as a family retreat, with BBQ areas, a pergola, wood-burning stoves, and a private swimming pool included in the grounds. 5 minutes from the market town of Vire, with a train station connecting to Paris in around 2.5 hours, and Caen sitting 50 minutes away by road. 6 bedrooms, a pool, a coach house, and a private garden in Normandy for under 300,000 euros. The last one on this list, though, takes everything we've seen and raises it one more time. 299,000 euros, around $347,000, and this is where the list ends. Property 7 occupies the east wing of an 18th century chateau in Château, a small historic town in the Haute-Vienne department of Nouvelle-Aquitaine. A building constructed in 1720 during the Rococo period and granted official historical monument status in 2001. 275 square meters, roughly 2,960 square feet, spread across 10 rooms, 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a private walled garden, a cobbled courtyard, and a 2-story garage carrying development potential. 3 centuries of original architecture survived intact inside, and the listing describes it plainly: wood paneling, historic tapestries, grand fireplaces, and a conservatory filled with natural light. None of that is styling. On the ground floor, a paneled lounge holds the tapestries alongside a modern kitchen, a formal dining room, and the conservatory. The first floor carries a bedroom suite, a guest lounge with a bar area, and a library. Up on the second floor, 2 bedrooms include a tower room described in the listing as having panoramic countryside views, and a self-contained apartment up there serves guests, or more practically, generates rental income. Here's where the math shifts further. The property currently operates as a bed and breakfast, carrying a 9.1 guest rating, meaning you are not buying a renovation project, but a functioning business with an income stream already running. Historical monument status in France opens access to certain tax relief schemes for restoration work, and a local notaire can map out exactly what that means for this property specifically, because that layer of value doesn't appear in the price. No major renovations described for the living quarters. No gap between purchase and occupation. For 299,000 euros, that combination of period architecture, walled garden, cobbled courtyard, hospitality income, and monument status is the kind of thing that closes fast once the right buyer finds it. 7 properties, $101,000 to $347,000, and each one lands differently, depending on what you're actually trying to build. That range matters, because none of these are the same answer. There's 7 completely different versions of the same question, which is what Chateau life actually costs when you get serious about it. For the lowest entry point with genuine lifestyle access, property 1 at 87,000 euros sits in a category of its own. For the most complete southern France package, with sun, Pyrenees views, fiber internet, and a private pool shared between roughly 10 owners, property 4 near Carcassonne takes it. For pure scale and project upside in the volcanic highlands of the Auvergne, property 5 in Giat runs a different kind of calculation entirely, and an honest one. For a family home that covers its own costs through the coach house apartment next door, the Normandy Maison de Maitre at 295,000 euros is the practical answer. And for the full version of what people picture when they say Chateau life, the tapestries, the tower room, the cobbled courtyard, 3 centuries of original architecture, and a 9.1 guest rating on a bed and breakfast that already runs itself, Property 7 in Château is where this list ends. Drop your pick in the comments: the entry-level tower apartment at 87,000 euros, the sun-drenched Carcassonne terrace at 159,000, or the Rococo East Wing in Château that operates as a rated hospitality business from day one. If you want more finds like these, real properties, move-in ready, in regions most people haven't looked at yet, subscribe, because the next video goes somewhere that makes France look expensive.